Okay, I have a note from this week, and then people can tell us how they are. Severin told the most fascinating story about getting beat up. And it was interesting because even though, of course, it's terrible that he got beat up, what was very clear about his telling the story, and it's such an interesting idea, is everything he talked about was clear. The images he talked about were clear. I mean, you could see him sitting, playing his saxophone, some guy coming up to him and pulling the pin, and then five other guys, and him insulting them and them beating him up. So, again, it was a tragic story. But from an acting standpoint, the choices the images were clear. The connection to everything he talked about was clear. And it was good theater. It is always interesting to me how in life we do things automatically. But as soon as we start acting, it's like we have to learn to walk and talk all over again. It does hit me that you need to maybe take less. I don't know. It's really interesting. Manu sent a really long I love the theater exercise. So first of all, I don't know. The problem is it's as if she was telling it to me. And so in that regard, I would say the problem with using a partner is that on certain occasions, our action is to make it clear what we're talking about. And that's not really what experiencing has to, it's a different action. I know what happens when we are connected. When we are connected, we can bring anything to life. I don't know how to help us find a road in to help us experience what we're talking about. Arthur, you've gotten really good at this over the past year or so. How have you found that that's true? I mean, do you know you're getting better at it? Can you sense you're getting better at it?
Yes, because like the statements made in the past few classes, it comes quicker. But this past one that you helped me with, I had a lot of trouble connecting to that priest guy, and I don't even think I did after I sent it to you. I got so tired of doing it. But what does make me know that I am connecting and following the instructions correctly is, well, what helps is I do it every day. I'm going to do a rep. I learned that from boxing. If you don't practice, you don't get it. So I do a rep, and what makes me think that I am becoming better is the experience of it. And that was the difference in this past. I couldn't get into the experience of this priest, not even with the wardrobe, not talking it out like I'm in 1858. Nothing was working. So I just had to go with the angst or the energy that he had with the other character. Like, you're a phony, you're a fake. And I just had to simplify it to that one thing, because nothing else, like the trying to talk my way into the time, like I said, and everything else. It just, I didn't feel any connection to anything. And it was very frustrating, no matter what I did.
I think, by the way, another thing I've learned this week working with Mattior, a manager was interested in him for commercials. And so she said what she wanted were two contrasting monologues. And so we started working on a monologue that was more serious, which is, comedy is so damn hard. I don't know how anybody can play comedy. But what I realized was we worked on this serious monologue of his for like 3 weeks. And this was not a long monologue. And because it was a play, it was really difficult. I mean, when you look at building a monologue for a play, you're looking at so many elements. And it's almost like you have to keep stopping all the way through. I think in so many plays, even the element Arthur's talking about, he's playing a priest who has heard about Bernadette of Lourdes, and he doesn't believe her. And of course, the journey he makes is from the beginning of the play. He doesn't believe her to the end of the play. He does believe her. So you know what the journey of the character is. But like Arthur said, there are so many things to work on. I mean, I really do understand when you work on a play why Kloerman spent 2 weeks of table work, because there's just so much to deal with. And the journey is very difficult. I mean, you really do have to find a road in. For Arthur, he was having difficulty, and I completely understand it, figuring out what did it mean to be, if you look at the facts of the play, what does it mean to be a priest in 1858 in France, in a small town in France? It takes a long time to find the road into that. You just don't do it instantly. And the road in is so slowly that you think, well, maybe the road in was, what was the position of religion in the mid-1800s? And so then you begin to understand that the center of everything was religion in the mid-1800s, and that, especially the Catholic Church in France, and that you begin to understand that the complete authority came from the local priest. The mayor didn't matter. It's like, so every single thing the priest said, and the priest was doing the sort of things that are biblical, that are Old Testament biblical. When who is it that had to decide whose baby it was, and so he suggested they cut it in half? What story is that?
Solomon?
What?
Solomon?
Yeah.
I was going to say Sophie. Nancy. Sorry, wrong story.
No, but I mean, it's like these huge stories. So, in other words, I'm just saying, it takes so long for you to figure out, okay, I think I understand what it must be like. I understand what it must be like to be the final voice of authority in a town. And so then I might expand on that and do an exercise. Like I might sit back and say, I remember in class we used to talk about like when. And so then I would sit back and say, all right, there was the time that. And so in other words, you work very slowly to get it. James is working on Lepakin, and unlike his love for the beach, Lepakin is making much better strides towards being realized. But the point is, it is frustrating, but there is a point that you realize I am working on a play, and a play is difficult. A play is difficult because it's about character, not about plot. And therefore, I have to build a past. I have to not just build the past, I have to experience the past. And there's so much talked about in the play, and so much not talked about in the play. And the reason I said, the thing that I discovered working with Madior on this monologue is after 3 weeks, man, we have barely scratched the surface. I mean, it was rough. But the French TV series, the French TV series was ostensibly about a guy and his friends, I don't know, got together and they had a driver's service. And so they drive people around. So the scene was between him and the girl in the back seat that's crying. So basically, we read through it once, and I was reading English, and he was doing it in French, and I could tell it was fine. I mean, you know what I mean? It's television. It's television, and so therefore you can't invent more things that are there. It reminds me of the story I love telling when members of the Actors Studio decided they wanted to do a comedy, and so they put together a reading of this farce comedy, and Clurman was one of the administrators, and at the end of the reading, Clurman said, "Thank you for the reading. I have always found that if you scratch beneath the surface of farce, you'll find shit." And that was the last time the Actors Studio ever thought about doing a comedy. But I mean, that's the thing. If you scratch below the surface of television scripts, you're going to find shit. So look, you have to begin. I mean, look, this is all part of this very, very complicated collection of things that we have to do. I said to Madior, for God's sakes, yes, shave the mustache. It makes you look 21 instead of 24. I mean, for God's sakes, I mean, what are we looking at here? It's a TV series in France. You're drop dead gorgeous. You're mixed race. What else? Just say your name. I mean, young. But the point was, he did. I mean, he did fine. And it wasn't complicated. Unlike James working on Chekhov, or Arthur working on a really well-written play, and actually a musical, and a really difficult song he had to sing as well. I mean, I don't know if they'll cast him or not, but the fact of the matter is he did it better than anybody else that will audition because he was clear what he connected to. And he did it the first run, and I gave him some notes, and then he did it again, and it was great. But I mean, that, you know, that's the thing. Look, part of this very, very difficult process of acting is figuring out, and you have to be so smart. You have to figure out what in this piece do I need to make believable. I mean, with Arthur, it's going to be difficult being a priest in 1858. And so basically, he made a very strong, clear choice, which was to build his relationship to his partner. So he built a very strong relationship to his partner. And I turned the dial on it after he sent the first round of audition tapes. Turn up the dial on the attitude towards her. So sometimes it's like, okay, the important thing here is for me to have an attitude clearly experienced, the attitude towards my partner. And a lot of times having that is more than enough. I mean, it really is. It's like and it falls into the category of your partner will give you the action. And sometimes I think if I am really clear with my relationship to my partner, the rest of it just falls in place. I mean, all I have to do is play my relationship to her. If I said the second she walked in the room, what do I think about her? It's like, she's small. Who would have thought she'd cause all these problems? I mean, and so I start to talk it out, and then when I say, so you're the one that's keeps seeing the Virgin Mary, it's like my attitude towards her gives me how to play the scene.